What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Tyler S. Clark, and welcome to today's edition of Free Tool Friday, where we deliver some of the best and most actionable information about how to grow and scale your accounting, bookkeeping, or tax firm 100% for free. And today, we are going to make sure that you get this incredible training guide, PDF, free download. In order to do that, just give me comments down below. And that ultimately helps more people learn about Free Tool Friday. But what does this PDF help you with? What does this training help you with? It helps you getting out of what I like to refer to as the land of purgatory for most accounting, bookkeeping, and tax firms. And that purgatory is, what is my niche, Tyler? What niche should I select? How do I find these people? What are the things that they care about? So we are talking about how to, yes, identify your perspective and soon to be dream clients. Dream client identification is today's topic. And again, comments down below gets you today's PDF. So let's talk about really why it's important to define your dream client. Then we're going to talk about some of the niches to avoid. And we're also going to talk about how you define that person. Okay. So let's kick it off. Really, why take the time to define your dream client? And the best way that I can have any single one of you understand this is that when you know who you want to work with, it makes understanding how to get in front of them, how to make them interested in raising their hands, really getting to the why they should work with you. It makes it so much easier to do that. Because when you have a really broad market, when you have a really broad approach to your marketing, your sales, even your fulfillment, you have to spend more time and more money to either attract their business, win their business, or fulfill on their business. And all that does is take away from your profitabilities. The simplest way that I can possibly have you understand like why this matters is that anytime you say yes to something, just ask yourself why, right? Like, why did I say yes to this? And you'll realize that it usually has to do with, well, they're speaking to me, right? It's relevant to me. Like, why am I listening to Tyler right now? Well, Tyler isn't like Russell Brunson, or Tyler isn't like, one of the mega marketers out there who says, anybody can do anything. As long as you have a business, it will work. And yes, those people got to that level by spending a lot more time and a lot more money, but we don't need to be, billionaires, right? We don't need those things as a general rule. Now, if you want to do that, sure, but I think you master a niche, then you can move to the next one. Point being is you spend less time and less money to attract and win the business of your dream client when you have a proper understanding of who that person is. So I don't know any entrepreneur who wants to spend more time and money than is absolutely necessary to attract and win their business. So with that being said, why do you listen to me? Because I work specifically with accounting, bookkeeping, and tax. What are you? An accounting, bookkeeping, or tax professional. So you're saying yes to this most likely because of the specificity that's associated with it. The same thing is true for you when you go to target your market, okay? So again, that gives you an idea of why dream client identification is so incredibly important. Now let's talk about niches to avoid. Right? What are the niches that when you really sit down and you look at it, you say, Tyler, what are the red flags that you notice, or maybe niches people should not be looking to target? And do me a favor, if you have a niche or you're thinking about targeting a niche, drop it in the comment section down below. I'd love to know what your thoughts are with respects to who you're either currently targeting, or if you're thinking about targeting, who that person might be. So niches to avoid. The first niche to avoid is that the idea that small business is a niche. It is not a niche. It is technically not the same thing as saying any person with a checking account, a business checking account, and a pulse, but it's really not that different, right? It's really not that different than saying, hey, I'll work with anybody. You got money? Come on in, right? I'll help you. I can do it. It's pretty much like saying that because there's no specificity associated with it. There just isn't, other than saying, well, I'm not a mega company. I'm not a mega corp with like 500 employees, and nobody's really trying to target them, right? Because they tend to have their own in-house accounting departments. So small business is saying anybody. That is not a niche. Similar to saying small and mid-sized companies, right? That's even bigger now, right? It's not a niche. Startups, right? You say, I work with startups. I'd argue also not a niche, and probably something most people would typically want to avoid, because here today, gone tomorrow. Now, I say that with a bit of a caveat, because if it's a startup inside of an actual niche, well, then you're going to want to make sure that you maybe consider saying yes to them, or be willing to figure out a package of services that is accommodating for a startup in your niche, because you really never know where they're going to go, who they're going to become. I always say, hey, how would you feel if you said no to Microsoft when they got started in their garage, or Google, right? You'd feel pretty silly. Now, of course, eventually they grow outside of your control, but that's a pretty weird thing to say no to. So anyhow, niche that you want to avoid outside of saying this is a niche. That's not a niche. I get on calls all day long and people say, my niche is small businesses. I say, that's not a niche, because there's no clear identification. If I said I work with small businesses, the odds you work with me go down. That means I have to spend more time and more money to attract your business. You are a small business, but I don't say that. And that's on purpose, because I want to spend as little time as money as possible to attract and win your business. Okay, but what are some other ones? So it's hard for me to like go list by list, but as a general rule, the niches that I think are either oversaturated, okay, or niches that are on the downturn, like shrinking, are going to be, so one of the niches that I actually believe is oversaturated right now, okay, is cannabis. Personally believe it. I know it's a growth one, but when you look at the actual numbers that back up selecting cannabis as a niche, is that there's a lot of huge enterprises that are coming in and taking over the vast majority of the space. Now, you could argue that could be true for almost any particular niche, but it seems exceptionally true for cannabis, which was heralded as it's going to be the small business revolution. It's going to be all this opportunity. And while that may still be true, the reason I think that it's saturated is when you have a company like Dope CFO who's saying, hey, everybody come, this is the new opportunity. There's so much opportunity in cannabis. And then you have a lot of people going into and buying that. I'm sure they do a good job for their clients. I don't have anything against them, but then you have all of the same clients using the same exact strategies for the same exact niche. That's literally the definition of saturation. So again, no problem with them in any capacity. I bet they have their success stories. I bet they do a good job. But I think that since there is a niche targeting a niche to push people into the niche, it's all of a sudden a little crowded at times. And there's also a lot of other concerns, government regulation, that I think prevent that from potentially being a big opportunity. Now, can you still win in there? Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Is it going to require a heck of a lot of effort and thinking outside of the box of what's being provided from maybe someone who's saying that that's the end all be all? Yes, I think that it does require you to go outside of the typical mold, because if everybody's already in that mold, how do you break out? You have to figure out how to look different. Another one is like, if you think about services that are shrinking overall, okay? And so like one of these that I think would be kind of interesting is, okay, so if you're targeting, let's say like, I don't know, typewriter is the worst one, but by extension, if you're targeting something that might be along the lines of, copy stores, right? Or small places that help with copying work, well, not a lot of people need that anymore. It's just typically a shrinking market. So anything that you're looking at where you're saying, is this have an overall trend upwards? And I'm going to cover this on next week's Free Tool Friday, is how do you identify those trends, right? So just a little food for thought. Next week, we're going to talk about trend identification internally as well as for external markets. Super, super cool topic for next week. But so again, just what has a growing opportunity as a general rule, okay? Now let's talk about how you identify. Let's say you picked your niche, not say you have, because you haven't done that yet, but let's say you're wondering, Tyler, okay, that's great. I know what not to pick. I know that it has value, but what is the right one for me? How do I pick my niche? I don't know. You tell me. When I say, hey, what's a market that you'd love to target? Just take a second, think about it. What's the first thing that came to your mind? There is almost always a reason that it was the first thing that came into your mind. And that reason usually has to do with you have experience inside of that space. And I'll just tell you a quick story about even my own personal struggle with living in the land of purgatory, of being for everyone and ultimately for no one. When I first launched my consulting company, I was working with dentists, financial planners, medical companies, accountants, and e-com. Okay. I was like ripping my hair out. It was so chaotic. It was so chaotic. And what I realized is that I looked at them and I said, okay. And I said, which one of these do I have the most tangible relation to, the best stories? Well, I ran my own accounting firm. Which one of these did I get the best results for? I said, oh, well, it was the accountant. I said, well, why? And I said, oh, because I have the most legitimate experience inside of that space. Why am I making my life harder than it has to be? There was no tangible reason for me to do that. And so I said, well, let me niche up. And then everything got easier, guys. Like from client acquisition to fulfillment to getting results for your clients, everything gets easier because you live and breathe inside of that space day in and day out. So my honest answer is that whatever you answer first, as a general rule of thumb, 80% of the time will be what you want to pick. Sometimes it's not, and there may be other reasons why you said it first. Maybe someone's in your sphere telling you you should be doing this when in reality, it may not be the best fit. Okay, so now that you have an understanding of loosely the industry that you can be in, one of the other major things people will bring up is, what if it's too narrow, Tyler? And I say, sure, that's fair. That's a fair point. And Tyler, what about my risk diversification? What if I had restaurants as my niche? And with COVID over the last 6 months, I might be out of business as a direct result. And I say, that's a fair point. So there is a balance for your risk diversification here when you're selecting a niche, okay? And the balance is, well, do I want to go hyper niche? Because I could say, you know, I only want to work with accountants who do taxes and believe in that Trump is the best president ever, and also think that when it rains, there are werewolves that come out, right? Like that's like as niche as you could possibly get. And it's a ridiculous example. And that's why I bring it up. Like you can go hyper niche, or you could serve a broader market. And so there is the broadest market, small business. Then there is sub-markets. You could say finance, you could say health, and you could say relationships. Now, I am inside the finance category, right? And I am in a sub-branch of the finance category because I could say financial professionals, I could say banks, I could say all sorts of things inside of that overall sub-market, okay? Or market, excuse me. Sub-market is a branch from that. And then I say, oh, well, listen, I'd like to work with accounting, bookkeeping, and tax. You could say, well, relationship, restaurants, or relationships, food service, restaurants, right? So like food service is really small, is much larger as opposed to restaurants, which is a branch of food service. Because think about the growth of all of the mobile app delivery stores. And one of the clients I had when I had my firm was a smaller competitor to Grubhub, and he was crushing his local market because he knew the local market better than these mega companies did. Then there's also your grocers. There's all of the companies that service the restaurants and the grocers. So there is such a larger category now when you say food service, but restaurants fits within that category. So again, I think that you can diversify your risk by not going hyper niche, but going just one layer above it and encompassing several service providers in that particular thought process. Okay? All right. So just want to make sure I've covered what I wanted to so far. Hyper niche, niches to avoid, how to select your own niche, my story about niche selection. Okay, great. So now let's actually dive into getting a little deeper, okay? And that's where this PDF comes into play. So we've got a little bit of an outline, a little bit of instructions on the front, pretty much covered that from a lot during this particular coaching. So what I want you to do is I want you to just understand that there is a lot of information that you will want to use when defining your dream client's demographics. Okay. Now, one of them is the age of the owner. When you say age of owner, you may want to have really hungry tech young startups, right? Like, so you may say 20 to 30, and that'll come into play later on in your messaging and also how you do your targeting. But you may say, I don't really want people who are, let's just say, know-it-alls out of college, right? I don't want to deal with those people. So you might say, but I want people who have had life experience and you might say, okay, maybe getting ready to start a family. So maybe 30 to 50 is my target range. Or maybe you say, you know what, I really want people who struggle with technology to help them migrate to a better experience. So I'm really looking for that 45 to 60 plus range, because those people tend to have more money. They've been alive longer. They've been playing the game longer, and they really need this particular help. So take some time to really think about what that age demographic is. Then you're going to think about the geographical location. Are you willing to work with the entire 50 states? That's fine, especially when you pick a niche. You're going to want to have, I think, a larger geographical pool to pull from, but you're also going to want to make sure that you say, well, am I decreasing my relevancy as a result, right? Because if I say real estate, well, real estate in all 50 states is fine, but if I say real estate in the state of Florida, how much more relevant do I now become? And you can do both. This is one of the cool things about the internet world, is that if you target Florida, you can show Florida, hey, I'm in Florida. But anyone that's outside of Florida, you can say, hey, I'm the best real estate person for you, period. Because I'm specific to it. Again, some cool things you can play around with there. Relationship status, are they married? Are they single? Divorce? How many children? A lot of people overlook this question, but if you're a parent and you have clients that are parents, how quickly do you build that bond? How can you create stories that relate to their industry, to being an entrepreneur around parenting? Pretty important question. Household income, religious affiliation. I don't put too much into these two, religious and political affiliation, but if you are willing to harness the power of polarity in your niche, you will cut your pie in half. But the half you now speak to, you're more like them, right? So if you want to hold the lightning rod and say, I believe everything that this particular party has to say, like, I love Democrats or I love Republicans, and you're like, blah, right? You're just like, ah, it's just like holding that lightning rod, taking the hate, but also taking the love, because people are like, yeah, I believe the same thing. Well, you might want to put that down there. But for me, I put nope. Like, for me personally, whatever you believe, that's on you. It doesn't impact my thoughts of you in one way or the other. There's very legitimate reasons that anyone has their particular belief system. And I'm not here to tell you one way or the other whether that's right or wrong. That's my personal way of approaching it. But if you are very fervently believing in it, guess what? It's hard for you to turn that off. So embrace it. Hold the lightning rod, and people will rally around you because of it. If you are like me, don't feel like you need to have that, okay? Just to be clear. Level of education, okay? So the level of education. Do you want more tradesmen, people who have gone to trade school, or do you want more college graduates? Do you want people who have their masters? Do you want people who have their doctorates? What is the level of education that typically your ideal client will have? Because if you're targeting medical professionals, well, they've been in school for a heck of a lot longer than someone who's been in a trades profession. Okay. And there's reasons that we consider those things. Okay. Now we're going deeper. Okay. And this is the psychographics at this point. And psychographics are really, what are their personality traits? Are they introverts? Like who I speak with as a general rule? Are they more extroverted? What are the things that go into making up this particular personality type of this entrepreneur? What are their values? Okay. And values, I love this, right? Like, what are the things that they want to get results for? That's what I look at their values as. Where are they looking to have impact? Are they mission driven, right? What are the things that they're actively participating in that shows their values? Do they value, I mean, you could talk about so many different things in this capacity. Trust, integrity, right? I mean, most people will list those things. And so I would say just take the time to do that as well. Hobbies. What do they like to do, right? I personally, whenever I find someone who's competitive in sports and also has done accounting, that is a huge indicator to me that they will be really excellent for our programs. And the reason for that is that competitive people don't like to fail. They love to be able to keep going. And that to me is like a huge factor in whether or not you're one of my dream clients. Now, that's not the end all be all, because there are other ways to be competitive outside of sports. But that to me is one of the ones that says, okay, this person has played on a team. They know the importance of leadership and following a coach. And they know also what it's like to have that competitive drive. They hate losing. I hate losing. I love working with people who hate losing as well, because we keep going. We keep figuring out ways forward. Purchasing habits or volunteer activities, right? If you believe in church, are they volunteering consistently, either their time or their money, to organizations that you believe in, right? Are they looking for racial justice? What are the actual volunteer things that they are participating in that perhaps resonate with you as well, and are things you can connect on and also communicate with them? Just very quickly on this, I have a coach that I work with, one of my coaches, and she has a Facebook group that is specifically about social justice, COVID, and all sorts of things. And the way it rallies her tribe is fascinating to see. It's just like, it's not about marketing. It's not about sales. It's about literally her willingness to hold the lightning rod, and the growth that she's seen. I don't know if it's partially because of this, or if it's just because of her willingness to share her opinions, has been ridiculous. It's been ridiculous to see. It's really impressive. And preferred mode of communication, right? I don't like people who want to communicate nonstop through email. It's the worst communication platform there is. It's easy to lose. I hate it. I hate everything about it. And that's why when you work with me at a higher level, I tell you, it's like the only thing you send to me through emails are attachments. That's it. No communication happens on email. It's just not necessary, and it's a waste. So like, that's a big one for me. If you're an email, just like I love nothing but email, we're not going to be a good fit. And that's okay. That's also why I don't recommend cold email. It's why I don't do cold email, because I'm not trying to find people who are like living and breathing every single day in their inbox. I'm looking for people who are trying to escape the time crunch of email and elevate what their conversations are capable of. And also spend less time in that mode, but in another way that delivers better communication and ultimately better results, a better client experience. And people who are looking to learn about that as well. Okay, so you would fill this out as well. Now, this is the business demographics. We've really only been talking specifically about the person, which I'll argue is more important, and that's why it comes first. Now, the business, of course, is critical, and that's going to be, what industry are they in? Are they business to business or B2C? Now, you may have heard me make the claim before. It's never B2B or B2C. It's P2P, because people are always working with other people. So I personally don't subscribe to that, but they most likely do. And it still is a good thing for you to understand as well. Are they working primarily with other businesses, or are they going direct to consumers? Most people don't want to do B2C, because B2C tends to imply inventory, which involves more work and typically not a higher profit margin. So anyhow, services and or products offered, the geographical location that the business services and is located in. Okay, also important to remember. Do you want to cross state lines and help that business with understanding the complexity of that and charge for it accordingly? Job title, right? Most of the time we're going owner and or partner. Okay, LinkedIn Sales Navigator for the win. Number of employees, annual income, both are critical, right? Are you looking for 0 to 10, 10 plus only? What defines that? And annual income for the business, generally speaking, I would say you'll have at least 6 figures plus listed there. Where do they get their information? This is the next layer here. So it's important for you to know who they are, what their business model is, but where are they going for their information? This helps you to achieve efficiency, okay? Like, I know where my clients go to get their information. CPA Academy, Facebook, YouTube are the general big 3, and some trade publications. Now, I don't do anything in the trade publications quite yet, but the other one is, who are the other thought leaders in the space? So you're going to do the websites they use, the blogs they visit, the magazines they read, the podcasts that they go on, right? I've been on Jetpack Workflow. Why? That's one of the influencers. I love David and what he has to offer. He does a great job. Blogs, right? I was just on TaxDome because I have reciprocal relationships with these people, because they say, oh, we serve the same industry, but we don't compete. Let's help each other out, right? I mean, and that's one of the best ways to get additional people seeing, right? Last week's Free Tool Friday, seeing views, looking at what you have to offer. I have to speed up a little bit because I have a call in a little bit. Okay, so you want to figure out where they get their information. And then this one is probably the toughest, okay, which is the deeper emotional drivers of what's going on. Needs, desires, pain points and challenges, personal goals, professional goals, fears, common objections, and the FAQs. What are they constantly wondering about? And so once you really understand the drivers, what is their whys? What propels them forward? It usually comes down to time, money, and impact. That's typically the three major things that all entrepreneurs really are striving for. How do I win my time back? How do I make more money while not working longer hours? And how do I deliver a better level of impact both to my clients, personally, to my family, and for the things that I care the most about? This last page, and I'm sorry I'm going a little bit faster now, but I hate being late for calls. It's one of my biggest pet peeves. One of the last things on here is arguably the most important, which is known as the paradigm shift. Okay, now I'm not some business major throwing a bunch of fancy words your way. Paradigm shift with the AI deep learning. No, so what you really want to understand is, what is their life like now? The 5 most common problems, more importantly, the emotions associated with it, right? So you might say, well, one of the problems is they don't get P&Ls. Okay. Big deal, right? Like, the problem of not having a P&L is I'm uncertain with like the profitability of my business. Uncertainty is the problem. That's really the emotional driver, right? Okay, the negative emotions they experience. Think of that. And then what we're thinking about is, after they have the chance to experience the power of your services, what are the positive emotions? Uncertainty, clarity, and confidence, certainty moving forward, because they have that monthly check-in with the financial expert. So when you take the time to go through and you go, this is the problems or the pain points and the associated negative emotions, and this is the corresponding effect on their life when they work with you, guess what? You're going to have a fantastic understanding of what you need to talk about to your dream clients. Last point, final step, okay? Final step here, guys. Give them a name. And literally, so I have Bob and Sue. You're going to print out a picture. You're going to put them in front of you. So here's the deal. You guys know, like, I take my own medicine. When you take your own medicine, you're more likely to want to help other people to take that medicine. So originally someone was like, hey, Tyler, you don't actually do that. You don't have a picture of Bob and Sue. Boop, meet Bob and Sue, right? Like, well, there's Bob. There's Sue. That's Bob and Sue. They are literally a 180 degree. I keep my mental image of what Bob and Sue represent to me in front of me all the time, because it's about them. Anytime I start to think it's about me, I go, it's not about me. It's never about me. It's about Bob and Sue. I keep them in front of me for a reason, because it crystallizes these people exist. And those people need my help. And it's my job to make sure that I do everything I can to identify them, to go through my ideal client avatar profile and work to get my message in front of my market as effectively as possible. And needless to say, I think this is one of the ways I can do that. So I hope you have enjoyed today's Free Tool Friday. You do not need to be stuck in the land of purgatory. You don't need to be there. Get out of it. Make a decision, stick with it, and you'll realize everything gets easier. Your ability to make money gets easier. Your ability to have profits gets easier, because a specialist will always beat a generalist. And that's why I'm your specialist. And I hope you've enjoyed today's Free Tool Friday. So I want to thank you for investing your most precious resource, your time with me. When you have this free guide PDF, as long as you comment down below, you will have an invite, dreamfirms.com/free training. If you want to invest a little bit more time with me and get a heck of a lot back, I encourage you to go to dreamfirms.com/free training. My name is Tyler S. Clark. I want to thank you for your time today. Enjoy your weekend. And remember, only you can make your dream firm a reality, but I'm here to help you every single step of the way. I'll see you next week, and next week's Free Tool Friday will be killer. See you then. Have a great weekend, everyone.